Hi guys, and welcome to episode 1 of our Tunbridge Wells project. So what I want to do is do a 5-part series talking you through the project from beginning to end, and how we do things here and how exactly we've taken the idea and the client's interaction with us to a finished product and them enjoying their smart home. So essentially the client has got in touch with us looking for a smart home quote. They've had another quote from another company which they have provided, so that made it a little bit easier for us to understand sort of what it is that they wanted, but still we made sure to ask the client exactly what it is that they wanted, and then we could use that to compare against the quote that had been given to us and see whether it had sort of ticked their boxes and really answered the questions of what it is that they wanted to achieve with their home. So in doing this, we have to make sure that we cover a few points. One is infrastructure, to make sure that the home is ready for the technology, the home is ready for future technology, and we make sure that we cover all points. So at no point when a new piece of technology or something new or additional is to go into the property, do we need to start ripping down walls and adding in extra cables. So to do this, we make sure we follow a sort of guideline of our cable infrastructure. So this enables us to make sure that we've got the correct cabling in the house. Ultimately, believe it or not, it will slightly raise the value of your property knowing that all the cables are in place for most scenarios in order for you to have robust Wi-Fi around the home, which is very, very important in today's society. Making sure all cables are in place to enjoy multi-room audio, and just to make sure again that we're not having to damage any walls or any decor or finishes to achieve what we want to achieve with a smart home system. Project will typically go through 4 stages. So it'll be defining your services, planning your home, installing the infrastructure and the equipment, and then testing. So the first thing that we need to do is get the client to choose their services. So we've got a number of services that can be incorporated into a smart home, and we need to make sure that we're putting in the correct amount of cables for what is required. Now, a lot of the time, the client's wish list may outweigh their budget, and what they want might cost more than what they can afford. So we always recommend to make sure that we have the cabling in place, and then when they're ready, if they're ready, they can then add on to build up to their wish list. But at least the cables are in place from the beginning, and like I keep saying, it saves any damage to the building. So each of these services will have a minimum requirement of cabling to go in. So services that we offer and we include in these smart homes are home network, broadband and wireless internet, to make sure that all your connected devices are all on the same network, they're all talking to each other, and as you're roaming around the home, you've got robust Wi-Fi. There's CCTV and security, so to make sure that your property is covered, and we can use the CCTV to trigger other events within the smart home, i.e. we can use AI detection to detect people or cars, to turn on certain lights or open gates, for example, without the use of other sensors. We've also got satellite and digital TV, so as much as this might not be seen as our realm, we like to get the cables in place, and then if we need to, we can have a specialist come in to get the aerials set up. A lot of people don't think they need sort of terrestrial digital TV anymore, but for the sake of a coax run to each point, it's a nice backup to know that if you want to, you've got Freeview ready on tap. In conjunction with that, we've got multi-room audio. So a lot of the time people like to listen to music throughout the house. So in conjunction with that, we've got multi-room audio. So a lot of the time clients like to listen to music all around the home in different rooms, maybe the same audio stream in multiple rooms, so maybe the garden, the open plan sort of entertainment living area, and maybe in a bedroom or two. So that enables us to have music playing, and also we can link it through from the TV, so you can have your audio from the TVs playing through. So if there's a football match on, or cricket or rugby or anything like that, you can play the audio through a multitude of different rooms with this. Another service is lighting control. Now, lighting control, in my opinion, is one of the most important features of a smart home. Being able to control your lights and control scenes and create moods is very important to you feeling like you have a nice luxurious home. From one button press to adjust different lighting loads at different levels simultaneously, or even one after the other, creating a nice effect, maybe down a hallway or through a garden, is really important. So making sure that we've got those covered and we can plan our cabling for those is very, very important. Another service is heating and cooling. And this is to make sure that, again, through the control system, we are able to take control of the heating and the cooling cycles. Yeah, in the UK, a lot of clients don't tend to go for the air conditioning, but some do. And in those scenarios, we're able to interlock the two systems, so you won't have heating on at the same time as your air conditioning battling each other to reach the desired temperature. And finally, we have home cinema and media room. So this is a very, very special room where clients have a dedicated room, or sometimes just dedicated space in the home where they can really focus on enjoying their media, being it through a very large TV with a nice sort of surround sound system, all the way through to a dedicated room with cinema seating, projectors, and a very, very immersive audio system. So once we've sort of offered these to the client, they can sort of pick and choose what they want. And then from there, we get the plans for their property, and we can start looking through exactly where we need to get cables and where the centralized position in the home is going to be that all the cables will run back to. Blind control and curtains is always a nice luxury add-on to any smart home. So this can be, again, tied in with the lighting control system. So of an evening, you can set a nice scene, a relaxing scene, whereby it draws the blinds or pulls the curtains, trims the lighting levels down to a nice relaxed mood, and maybe even turn on the fireplace or your favorite movie. So that is a nice key one to add in. Right, and a great way to begin to plan your home is to think about what it is that you want to achieve at the end. So what rooms you want to listen to music in, where you want to use the control system, so touch screens and remote controls, where you want your TVs, where is the incoming services coming into, so where's your broadband coming in, where's the aerials coming in, where's the Sky feed coming in. To think about what areas you want covered with CCTV, what doors and windows need to be covered with security systems. So we need to think about how the home needs to function and how we want it to be at the end, and then we start sort of piecing it all together and sort of wire mapping back so we can plan out what cables we need to go where. So another important factor that I just touched on was incoming services. Now that is one that we do need to think about. An important area that's often overlooked is the incoming services, as I've just previously mentioned. We need to make sure we know exactly where all of these services are coming in and where they need to get to. So ultimately there will be an AV head end, or a rack location where all of the equipment will go to, sometimes called a central hub. And we need to make sure that all of these services are going down to, or going down or going up, or going to the location that we need them to. Sometimes this may be planning in advance and having ducts installed in place for future fibre to be pulled in. So we just really need to make sure that we have liaised with the customer and they've spoken to their providers, and so we know exactly what is coming into the home, when it's coming into the home, and what we need to allow for. And then finally, with the infrastructure for the home, this is made up of some really high quality cables which meet minimum performance requirements for the intended use. So although there's many Cat 5, Cat 6 cables out there, maybe even Cat 7 in some smart homes, and coaxial cables, there are different qualities which can hinder and limit your smart home if the incorrect cable is used. So we always make sure we're using cables that are of high quality and meet the performance requirements that we need. And we'll start jotting down, let's go back again. Are we still rolling? Cool. So let's have a look at the plan of the project that we're talking about today. And we'll have a little jot down, make some notes of exactly what needs to go where, so we can start thinking about our infrastructure. Cool, so here is the first floor and the second floor plan of this project in Tunbridge Wells. So we have actually got an electrical layout, and with the layout, I'm just trying to see if we've got any points on here for any TVs or anything like that. We have already got some data points laid out here. So these triangles here are for data points. So in the rooms, you can see we've got various data points dotted around. One of the problems that we do find is that architects or interior designers don't really know the best place to place these provisions. So we always make sure that we go over and double check and move anything that we feel needs to be moved. Now, what we'll firstly do is just look at the rooms and just do a rough note down in the black pen as to what each room will have and the rough location. So we know in these 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, we're looking to provision for 2 TVs here, and then potentially we've got desks on the back corner. So we're going to allow the data here and data here. The client has told us that the TVs won't be going in, so we just want to make sure that we have pre-wired for them. Now up here again, we're going to need some Wi-Fi. So somewhere central would be good to have a Wi-Fi point. So that would either be in the hallway, maybe we can hide it in the cupboard, and that will serve this floor. Being so high up, we don't generally need to have some security sensors. So what we sometimes do is stick a panic button in, so just in case you can hear something going on downstairs and you know no one should be downstairs, there is a panic button so that you can push. So for now, we'll just put that in the cupboard. So we'll put panic button in. And up here, that pretty much is it. With the heating and cooling, so the electrical and the mechanical contractors will be looking after that, and we're just going to integrate in. So we've already told them to use heat miser, so I believe they're going to have a sort of underfloor heating zone in this bathroom here, and there'll be another thermostat for the radiators in these 2 bedrooms, but we won't include them on the plan because that's sort of out of our scope. We're just going to integrate in. So moving on to the 1st floor, we're going to first start by looking at TV points. So again, here in the master bedroom, we're going to provision for a TV here. This is going to be a sort of bedroom / study. So I think this here is to be a desk. So we're going to allow for some data under the desk, and we'll probably just do, that's looking like 2 sockets either side of a bed. So we'll just put a TV point at the end there. Again, in this bedroom here, that looks like a bed head. So we'll go for a TV point there. We'll probably look to, this is a cupboard, we could probably hide a Wi-Fi access point in there. And then so on this side here, we've got a dressing room because that may not cover over into the master bedroom area. So we'll allow for a Wi-Fi point in that master bedroom. Again here, we've got another bedroom. There's a window there, so we will just put the TV in this corner. And that looks like it for TVs. We'll add a few data points here and there. So we'll go side of the bed here for data. Also, we'll go for a panic at the side of this bed. Where else are we going? TV. We could probably go data next to it. Again, these are just rough locations. It's just so we can ensure that we've got what we need in the rooms. That might cover it. Now, if we look at audio, they said they don't want any audio upstairs, and if they do, they can use the TV. All the TVs will be able to have sound bars put onto them, so if we need a bit of better audio, we can put a sound bar on them. Down here in the master bedroom, we may be looking at some speakers, so I'll just put music. Again, in the ensuite, we'll put music, and maybe family bathroom, so let's put music here. I know they're thinking about blinds in this master bedroom, so we'll just write blinds here, because that will serve those 2, and I think everywhere else is fine. We'll probably allow for a PIR sensor in here, so I've got PIR, and that will cover this area, and I don't think that we need to look at much else for now. Ready? Right, so moving on to the ground floor. Again, we will start by looking at the Wi-Fi. So it's quite an open plan area here. So I'm just going to go for right in the middle, and I'm going to say Wi-Fi. And the reason I put it right in the middle is because I know we're having music in here. So I'll put music, and what we can do is we can use the speaker cutout to house the Wi-Fi access point within the ceiling. So it's not hidden, but it will still cover the area. Again, we're going to want music in the kitchen. They've said they want music in the dining room. These are bifold doors, So we are going to have some blind control over here. We are going to have PIR, and we're going to have door contact. So that's not necessarily if someone breaks in, but if you go to leave the home and you haven't closed these doors, it will let you know that those doors aren't closed. It's got here media wall, so we know we've got a TV going in here. Again, in the playroom, we've got a TV going in there. Nowhere else there seems to be a TV. We've got music. We'll go for a PIR sensor here as well on the internal. Go for a PIR here for the hallway. We're going to have a door contact on that front door. We'll probably have the alarm keypad. So alarm keypad just inside here. Potentially a PIR, but for the home automation system. So that will allow us to program maybe some lighting from entering in. We can start to turn on lighting within the open plan kitchen dining area. We'll also put a PIR for the home automation system outside in the porch as well. So as you arrive, you can begin to turn on lights inside the entrance for you, maybe after the sun's gone down. If we look at CCTV, we'll probably look to have, they said they want to have a doorbell, so we'll go for a video doorbell here. And then we'll probably just look at adding CCTV to every corner of the property. So just for now, we'll put CCTV, and we know that we need to look. Now this might be one camera or two cameras. Actually, potentially, let's move that to here. I think that is lower down on the basement. So that's actually the perimeter of the house. So we'll move that there. And then let's go down into the lower ground floor. Actually, sorry, we're going to have a door contact on that pantry door there. And there will be some other bits like a shock sensor on the windows, but we'll go through that in a bit of greater detail. Now down in the lower ground floor, this room here has been allocated for our rack. So we know that here we're going to have our sort of AV head end. So all of the cable infrastructure will come back to this room. This is going to be our cinema room. So we know that we're going to be allowing for a projector here. Screen to go here. I'm not too sure if it's going to be a motorized screen or a fixed screen. So we'll probably just allow for that. There will be potentially blind control here and door contact. What else? There's a gym here, so we'll have music, potentially TV on this wall. So you get the gist. That's what we're going to do here. So we're just basically marking out what services are going to go into each room, and then we can come back in with our different color pens and start to sort of narrow down as to what's going where. So if we go back to our upstairs floor plans, so we come back here upstairs, we can sort of narrow down a bit more where these points are going to go. So we can actually say that, okay, we're going to put the TVs here back to back, and then we'll actually look to put the data on these back walls here. Now that's just because if there's a desk going across here looking out the window, that those data points are underneath the desk. Again, the beds are going here, but these are vaulted ceilings, and that looks like there might be sort of built-in wardrobes here, or that might be the vaulted ceiling. So putting a TV on these walls isn't going to work. So for this bedroom here, the TV there works well, and for this bedroom here, the TV could come out on a bracket, so that then would work well. To try and minimize seeing the technology, we'll probably try and put the Wi-Fi point in here as well, and we'll just keep the panic button in there. Although it means you've got to go in the cupboard, it's less of an eyesore to have a panic button out, and that just means anyone that's upstairs can just quickly run out and smash that panic button if they need to. Moving into the first floor again, if we start looking, that Wi-Fi point will stay in the wardrobe. we're looking to hear, we'd probably go with a single stereo speaker, but then in the master bedroom, probably go with 2 speakers either side. Blinds, we'll probably look to go to keep them motored on the same side. We'll wire to a blind point here and we'll wire to a blind point there. TV point down in this location here. And then we will go data down there. Now the reason I put the data there is they might want to connect a Sonos speaker or something similar. Maybe a smart screen such as an Amazon Echo or something similar that requires a nice hard connection. Where we can get hardwired connections, we like to. In this bedroom again, we'll lock down, we'll go for the data on this side. TV again opposite the bed, but as there will be data there, we will put data on this side. So you get the gist of, fucking hell. So you get the gist of what we're trying to achieve here. And once we've sort of finished with what we're doing, we will then get it drawn up into CAD and send it over to the client for them to review. So when we've got our floor plan here, for us to work out our sort of approximate cable length so we can work out how much cable needs to be ordered and give a quote to the client, it's important to make sure that the drawings are scaled and you've got them printed out to what they should be. So you can see here, this is scaled at A1, and we've got our scale here at 1 to 50. So if we come to our ruler at 1 to 50 and we put that up against there, you can see that it actually lines up. So that is 1 meter, 2 meters, and the total there is 5 meters. So if we was to look at a cable run, just for example, and we note that down there, from the end of that room, let's just say our riser is going to be here, just for example, we know that we've got, 6 meters there. We can look at the elevations and see how, we can look at the elevations and look at the heights of rooms, and we can sort of work out an approximate length of each of these cable runs, and then we can tally up at the end and work out how many meters of each type of cable we need, and then so we can build a price on how much the cables are going to cost. Now, once we've got these plans firmed up and the client's happy with locations and with the services that we've included, we will then produce a wiring plan and a cable schedule. Now the cable schedule outlines what cables are being used, their origin location, i.e. the AV head end and where they're ending up. So it might be, so we could have 2 cables for data that might be going from the AV head end in the basement to the 2nd floor by the bed. And all of that information will be included in the cable schedule. So as you're running it, you're able to label the cable and know where it's going to, where it's coming from, and how much cable to leave at each end. With the wire map, it will be a overlay of the floor plan, just showing where cables will be going to, i.e. to the first speaker and then loop into the second speaker. So where we've got 2 speakers in a room, we will use a 4-core cable and go to the first speaker, leave a loop, and then go to the second speaker. And then when it comes to second fixed stage, we will just take our 2 cores at the first point and leave the second pair going to the other speaker without being cut. So we're able to minimize the cable runs rather than doing 2 2-core cables to each speaker. And then once the cable schedule and the wire map is on site and we're ready to run cables, we get all the cables in site and we begin to install. Now, as the cables are going in, they need to be installed with a lot of care, because these cables are expensive to purchase in the beginning and they're also expensive to replace if they go wrong. Now, we do make sure we test the cables. Once they've been installed, we do get to a point where we begin to terminate both ends and we test to make sure that the cable is fit for use. But a lot of the time, with how quick these builds are going on, by the time we get to testing phase, some of the cables have already been closed up in the walls. So they're relying on the install procedures being quite meticulous and being done in such a way that we can pretty much ensure they will have sustained no damage when installing. Now, a lot of the time, as an electrical contractor and an AV specialist, we actually run our own cables, whereas some AV companies will get the electricians that are wiring their electrical first fix to also put their cables in. Now, we found in the past that depending on whether the electrical contractors have installed these cables in the past, they might not be aware of some of the sort of procedures and the restrictions and the guidelines. So we need to ensure that these cables are kept a minimum of 300 mil apart when running sort of parallel, and then they only cross over at 90 degrees. Now, this is to ensure that we limit the interference between the mains power cables and the smart home infrastructure. If this isn't done, then we can face problems. Once the system's up and running, we can get sort of buzzing or noises coming through the speakers when they're not wanted, or we can get sort of fuzzy pictures on cables that are supplying sort of video signal to TV points around the house. So it's really important to make sure that the infrastructure is installed to a high standard. So once the cable infrastructure has been installed and tested, we will then do another visit to do a full assessment of the property. So it's one thing to make sure that the cables are tested out all right, but it's just to make sure that the cables are in the right position, they're in the right length, they've got the right connectors on them, even after testing, to make sure that they're still in good condition, because a lot can still happen after you've tested. You've got decorators, you've got other trades, carpenters, etc., carpet fitters. So we will do another visit just to make sure that everything is spot on before we bring our equipment in. At this point, what we like to do is just to give a report to the customer, just to let them know that we have checked the infrastructure from top to bottom and we are happy with the test results. We are happy with where the cables have been installed. We've got documentation to back up what cable goes where. And it's just a nice touch just to show that everything's in order and we really know what is going on. So that pretty much sums up how we approach one of these projects. And so stay tuned for the next video, which will be when we're on site, getting the cable infrastructure in, and you get to see what it takes to get cables in for one of our Control4 smart homes.